Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Laverne Boarding Zoning Appeals, March the 30th, regular meeting at 5:30. I'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. So with that, I'd like to move forward with approving the minutes from December the 29th, regular meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Minutes, motion approved, carries. Okay, new business. Request for a sign variance, property located at 511 Newport Road, tax map 17, parcel 38.02, I2 Heavy Industrial Zone District, property owned by James Cameron, trustee. Mr. Logan, can we have your report, please?
Thank you. This request is for 511 Newport Road. This is now the location of Southern Tire Mart. It was formerly, for many years, the location of Olympia Coach. And so you can see there in the overhead, Newport Drive is right next to I-24. And being that it's so close to the interstate, there's special sign provisions for those locations. And in this instance, they are located within the allowed distance, which is a half a mile of the interchange at Walden Road and I-24. So this site does meet the criteria to ask for an interstate on sign, but all interstate on signs still must go to BOZA to get permission before they're installed. So that's why they're here tonight. This property is zoned I-2, and you can see that on the screen there. It's actually has I-2 zoning all around it, and just a small area of R3, about 2 lots down. The original, well, here's some site visit photos, and you can see the property's fenced and it's lighted, and this is the existing building, and this site plan was approved just on January 26th. So that was for a change of use from Olympia Coach to Southern Tire. So they're new occupants of this building. They didn't make any additions to the building, by the way. They just changed the use. So, and there's another photo of the property. So moving on to the sign details. When they first applied 30 days ago, they asked for an 80-foot sign. So I don't know if this is the same company that did Volvo, but they've shown the Volvo sign in their diagrams, and the Volvo sign is an 80-foot tall sign. So originally they'd asked for that, and then as you can see in the report in the red lettering, last week on March 24th, the applicant contacted staff and said that the company had decided to lower the sign from 80 feet to 50 feet. So the diagrams that you see here, they're exactly as staff emailed to each of you last week, but at that time, they were still going with the 80-foot sign. So the color and the lettering is the same. They've just lowered it 30 feet. And there's an option 1 and an option 2, and those are in your packets as well. So this is option 1, which these are standard internally illuminated sign cabinet, and let's see, option 1 has the white with the black outline, and then option 2 does not have a black outline on the sign. It's just white continuously to the edges. And then, of course, on option 1, the pole that they proposed would be black, and they're changing that color to blue in option 2. And so the other signage on the building has already been taken care of, so they're only requesting the interstate on sign with this request. And I believe, let's see, the size of the sign, each side would be 264 square feet, and this is slightly smaller than the Volvo sign that is existing next door to them. And there has been a sign on the property for over 3 weeks now, and there's not been any phone calls received. And that will complete the report. Thank you.
Is there anyone here representing this request this evening? If you would stand up and come to the podium, and we'll just swear you in one at a time. If one would raise your right hand, please. Follow after me. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, to help you God.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Julie Cook, Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Okay. And you, sir?
Noah Martin, Nashville, Tennessee.
Can we give physical address, please, an actual street address?
Street address is 348 Normandy Circle.
Thanks, sir. Do you have any questions or comments of what Mr. Logan said?
No, actually, I appreciate the report on that. The coming down to 50 feet was when we reconsidered of the interstate present, being able to see from the interstate, that 50 feet was significant to be able to have the travelers see it there and not look so insignificant next to the 80-foot Volvo.
And just the differences between the two signs, why on option 2 is it 24-inch diameter going down to up to 30 feet, and the other one is 18 to 24? What's the reasoning behind that?
I'm sorry, I'm deaf in one ear.
So on option 1, the lower diameter of the pole is 24 inches in diameter going to 18 inches. In option 2, you're showing 30 inches going to 24, but it's the same size sign.
The option 2 is our preference, that is the larger diameter. It's the same as the Volvo diameter and would look more in proportion with the cabinet on top. The option 1 that you see, that is smaller. To be honest with you, and it's be my apologies, it looks like the artwork was done. It is enlarged and they didn't change the diameter on the picture. The picture shows the diameter being the same, but they didn't change the 18 to the 24.
Okay.
My apologies for that. You bring that up. I'm just now seeing that.
And the color difference obviously appears one is black and one is blue. Is that
The color difference is we do a lot of the Southern Tire Marks in the black with the white panels. I was trying to go a little more upscale. In the Volvo, I don't know if you noticed, the Volvo is a solid cabinet. It's not just your shell with the panels that slide in the side. It's actually a solid cabinet, and only the letters are cut out, and you put the panels in where the letters are with the LED lights behind it. So it's just a more upscale look than the black one.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any questions or comments? Do we have a preference between, I presume you're giving us the option, do option 1 or option 2.
Yes, sir.
You're okay
Yes,
with
sir.
both? It's just you're looking to be a good...
If we can have 50 feet, we'd be very happy.
Understand. So comments on option 1 or option 2? What's the board think? I mean, my thoughts would be option 2 with the darker background versus the solid white would fit more with the area, would be my comment. Going to the 50 feet, I think is okay. The colour to match the other one makes sense as well. So that's my comments. Any other comments from the rest of the board members?
No,
I think option 2 also blends in very well with with the Volvo sign as well. You know, it's not standing out terribly, so it really blends in. It looks very good.
Any other comments?
no, I agree, option 2 seems to work better with the Volvo sign.
Okay.
Okay, so we're done. All right. So with that, any other questions? Does anyone else want to speak for or against this item? There's no one against. So with that, I'll accept a motion to accept or deny the motion as presented for the request for sign variance on the property at 511 Newport Road.
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second. With that, we'll have a vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to item number 2, new business, request for sign variance, property located at 5468 Murfreesboro Road. Tax map 18B, Group E, parcel 5.04, C2 Highway Service Zoning District, property owned by Washtopia Holdings LLC. Mr. Logan, could you have your report, please?
Thank you. This is another sign request for a commercial site on Murfreesboro Road. The address is 5468 Murfreesboro Road, and this is Washtopia, which is a car wash. And here's some site photos. So this is currently under construction, and this was approved by the Planning Commission very close to 2 years ago, and they broke ground a few months back, and so it's coming along. And you can see, so this is from Murfreesboro Road, which is essentially the front of the building, and then this is the rear, and you can see the scaffolding and the work being done to the car wash there. And then this is taken a little further away to the south and east, looking back toward the building. And when staff visited, they are in the process of setting up all the vacuums, so I believe that's quite a bit of that equipment on the ground in the foreground. So this site is Zone C2 along with all of its neighbors on Murfreesboro Road, and you can see it's this polygon right here on Murfreesboro Road. And this is from March of 2020, the last time that it was flown by Rutherford County GIS, so that's before the construction started. And then this is the same view zoomed out. So it is there on the, basically the south side of Murfreesboro Road, or the opposite side of the street from Walmart. It's not right across from Walmart, but it's on the opposite side of the street and pretty close to Walmart. So they are requesting tonight to have 2 wall signs. The ordinance, as it stands now, will allow a wall sign and a pylon sign, and then you can pick a canopy sign if you wish to go along with that. You cannot, even though the ordinance will let you have 4 signs on a commercial building, you cannot mix and match the 4. So once you use up your wall sign, that's the only wall sign you can have. So it's my understanding that they want to forego a sign at the road and instead go with 2 wall signs. Now, of course, it's been over 30 days since they applied, and like our last applicant, these things change over the 30 days. So in your packet, there's 2 sets. There's the original sign plan, which is undated, and then this past week on March 26th, they submitted the latest plan of what they're wanting to do. So they're very similar, but there's just some slight changes between the original submittal and the March 26th submittal. So moving on, these were the original plans that they submitted. And you can see this shows the front elevation and the rear elevation with the 2 wall signs, one on the front and then one on the rear. And then there's some other signs. This is zoomed in. You can see a little bit better the Washtopia sign. And that's the sign that they were proposing on the rear. Now, there are other signs in there that are fairly small. There's 2 car wash signs that are just block letters, and they're in red, and they just say car wash. So that's all part of the package on the color diagrams that they've submitted. The dimension of each sign is 93.8 square feet, so that'd be 93.8 square feet for one wall sign, and then the second wall sign would be another 93.8 square feet. So about 186 square feet total with the wall signs. As far as they submitted, each sign's identical. There's no differences in the color or the text or the size. And again, they're apparently not going to have or not planning to have a pylon sign at the road, just the 2 wall signs. There has been a sign up there for over 3 weeks, and there's been no phone calls received by staff. And that completes the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Is a representative here for this request? Would step to the podium if you would, and I'll swear you both in. Raise your right hand if you would, please. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Jason Vandermark, 5012 Licton Pike, Whites Creek, Tennessee, 37189.
I'm Kevin Pence, 4223 Lindsay Circle, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do you agree with what Ms. Logan has described this evening?
Yes, just a slight change. The document that he referred to that had come in last week had a couple variations, and I'm hoping that it's sitting in front of all of you. One of the things that we decided in-house was our normal sign package, which was in the initial submission, doesn't really fit well with the angle of the site. So we are normally sitting on a site to where we're sitting perpendicular to the road, and so people are able to see both sides of the building. In that kind of situation, it makes sense to have our logo on both sides of the tunnel. In the orientation that we have at 5468, we are angled at probably a 45 degree, and so the back side of the building that was called out in the photos here that Bo's brought up, that side of the building is not visible to the street. So it doesn't really make any sense for us to put a 96 point whatever square foot sign there with our logo on it, because everybody who's already in there and can see that part of the building knows what they're there for in the first place. So what the modification is, we brought in a smaller sign that we were hoping the board would approve to put on the end of the tunnel, which would be facing Murfreesboro Road and would accompany the one that is on the front elevation sign, a portion of the diagram. And so that's what we were hoping to get. It's I don't have its actual dimensions here, but it's an 11-foot wide sign versus a 17-foot and 3/4 inch sign that the other one is. So it's a drastically smaller sign that fits on the end of the tunnel, and it would allow people coming north and south to be able to see what the business is more easily. So we're hoping that the board will agree with that and allow us to put those in place.
Fair enough. So the first question is, I want to make sure we clearly define what we're approving. So if you would, with Mr. Logan's dated this for 3/26/21, could you just make sure that is, because whatever we approve or disapprove, that's what we're going to go with?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm a bit miffed that you don't know the dimensions of your front sign. I mean, that's just, for me, it's a little concerning.
I apologize. I just don't have that piece of information with me. I don't know if we have it with the Jocelyn sign, an updated version of that with them.
Because on your diagram, you're indicating the 11 feet by...
Like 11 by 3 feet 6.5 inches.
That's what it's showing. So I just want to make sure, again, we're agreeing so there's no discurrent at a later date. The 38.5 square feet. Okay. If board members, any questions or comments on this application? So again, the pole sign, you're not going to have a pole sign, you're just going to go with what's on the side of the building.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And the amount of signs you have for getting people in and out of your car wash, you're happy with?
Yes, sir.
Are they consistent with your other car washes in other areas?
All of them, like I said, except the ones that we've made modification to just because of the angle of the building. Yes, sir. We normally have, from a directional standpoint, absolutely.
Okay. Are these backlit lights or signs?
Yes, sir.
That's include the car wash and the Washtopia?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And just also point out the ones that are on the canopy that are in the diagram are also backlit as well.
Any other comments from the board?
No questions for me.
No question.
With that, I'll accept a motion to accept or deny the motion as submitted.
Make a motion to accept as submitted.
I have a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, number 3, request for a variance to side and rear setbacks property located at 1704 Mars Street. Tax map 18B, Group C, parcel 10, R2 medium density zoning district, property owned by Pamela Hayes. Mr. Logan, can I have a report, please?
Yes, sir. This is 1704 Mars Street, and this is a single-family residence that is zoned R2, which is medium-density residential. It is located just on the north side of Murfreesboro Road, where Mars intersects with New View, and you can see in the imagery there on the screen. This is a R2 subdivision, so all the houses are zoned the same on the rear and each side of this property. And then zooming out, you can see its location. Murfreesboro Road is just south here off the screen. And the applicant is requesting a variance to the side and rear setbacks. And in your packets, the applicant submitted in this envelope in each of your packets the diagram that shows the intended placement of the carport. It's my understanding from speaking with the applicant that apparently there was a carport there sometime in the past. I don't know how long it goes back, but I believe that there has been a carport there, and a tree had fallen on it at some point in the past and either damaged it completely or enough that it had to be removed. So part of this request is for that carport that was there for a number of years. Let's go to the site photos. So this is front of the home, and you can see the driveway here, and the front yard is fenced. And to the left side of the house appears to be a ditch, or at least a depression, but probably functions like a ditch. And then moving around, so this is from the street looking through the front yard along the side of the house and into the back, and there's a shed of some sort existing that's already there, and then this is the actual carport. It's hard to see in this photo, but the carport has been butted up next to the accessory building or the shed in the rear. So now this, as you come around the block and look back, so this is the house on the corner, and then the applicant's house has the blue roof, and it's in the distance in the rear. And then you can see this shed also has like a light blue roof on it. The shed is here in the, essentially the corner of the rear yard. And again, it's hard to tell exactly how long the shed has been there, but I think on the diagram, it appears that the issue is that there should be a minimum of 10 feet setback from all property lines. So if you look there on the diagram, they've reported 2 feet 11 inches for this metal carport, 2 feet 11 inches off the property line, and then on the side, I guess they're referring to the storage building that's right here in the photo, and they have reported 2 feet 4 inches from the property line there. So they're certainly in violation of those setbacks. So the applicant decided to try to request a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals for this carport and shed. And so like I said, the city's ordinance maintains a 10 feet setback from all property lines for any accessory structure, regardless of whether it's a shed, carport, garage, what have you. And let's see, going back here, you can see there's also looks like it's an attached garage. It's at least 2 sides covered, and possibly 3 sides covered, which is a place, covered area for parking vehicles. And other than that, that's the general layout of the property. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks.
Mr. Logan, I do have a question. So on the application, it indicates to replace the carport back in same location of original carport that was destroyed by a storm. So the picture you took there is, I mean, is that the carport? I mean,
The carport is there.
oh, okay.
So it's already there, and I don't know if, I don't know, sometimes the codes enforcement officers find these items, and I don't know if this one was already in place and they found it, or sometimes people come in and ask the board first and then put them in. So,
Do we have a representative or applicant here for this evening for this, please? If you would raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Pamela Haynes, 1704 Mars Street, Laverne, Tennessee.
Do you agree or comments on what Mr. Logan's report was?
Yeah, I'd like to explain a little bit. So the building in the very back that you see, that was built about 35 years ago. And I came to the city and they said as long as it was movable, I could set it there. So it's built on railroad ties. A tow truck could lift it up underneath and move it if we should want to. But it's been there about 30 years. The metal carport, it's been there for quite a few years, about 11 years. It covers my camper. When Mother Nature decided back in March that that tree next door no longer needed to be standing, and you can see there's no trees next door anymore, it took out the metal carport, my camper, and my roof. And I have looked at other places to place this carport. The other side of my property is like a natural creek. When it floods, when it rains hard, water goes down the center. My kids have fished in it, we've thrown rocks in it, the grandchildren play in it. But in order for me to make an area down there for the camper to go underneath the carport, I would have to do some concreting and stuff, and I'm afraid that it would change the flow of the water. I have 3 culvert pipes that dump into that side yard. And I don't have a picture, I do on my phone, but I didn't bring my phone in, of the water flowing. This past weekend, the water filled up in my front yard and went out through the driveway and down through the ditch, and it goes through to a creek. And I don't know the exact name of the creek that runs, but it floods quite often. Minerva and Mercury Drive usually have to be shut off because of the overflow flooding water. So I don't want to do anything to that side yard and let the water flow. So I'm asking to be able to put up the carport. It is still there. The material is there to put it up. The city did come out and say, ho, whoa, you know, you can't do this. We stopped, the workers went home, and here I am.
I understand. Obviously, you indicated that it was been there 30-plus years. That the trouble with these applications is, as our zone ordinances have changed, you know, obviously we've gone to the 10 feet. So that's obviously why the department picked up on that. So my question is it not feasible for you to get a 10-foot setback on the side and on the rear and pull it more, you know, towards your home? I mean,
I cannot get my camper and my truck in the backyard at all. I cannot make a turn into my backyard from the ditch or from the right side of the picture here. And that carport was, the metal carport was flush with the house, so it wasn't out in the yard. It was flush with the house, and it's been there. I didn't know, my fault, that I needed a variance to put it back up.
So let me just coordinate this a little bit. So from that picture there you're looking at there, are you referring to the carport that's directly behind your trailer there now with the car underneath it, or the one at the back of the home you've indicated on your diagram?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
You have given us part of the evidence here,
Yes.
a metal carport at the back of the property.
Oh, yes, there is one in the back of the property. It's not as tall as the camper. It was put in there for the jet ski, the trailer, the lawnmower, and it's also been there, probably 20 or 30 years.
So what you're saying then is you cannot get your truck and trailer down the right side of the property, 14'6" is the width, and go back round and put the trailer into the back of the metal carport?
No, I cannot make that turn. And if I tried to come off of Murfreesboro Road down into that ditch area, that makes, I'd have to build that up. And I don't think the water flows over Murfreesboro Road at that point, because it's right beside the culvert pipes. And so, which means I'd have to kind of like put in more culvert.
And they're not talking about the building you're talking about.
They're not.
They're talking about the corner building. You're wanting to put it right here beside your house.
Uh-huh.
So they're not talking about the same building you're talking about.
See that, we've got some confusion here, and I'll make sure we clearly understand what we're doing
I
here.
need to be sworn in to share with
If you would,
her.
please. Ray Ryan, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Pam Biggs, 229 Stones River Road, Laverne.
Okay, Pam, so just looking at the diagram there, which is what we all have, so are we referring to the property in the top right corner, or are we talking about the carport attached to the house?
We are talking, as you're facing that property where that 14.6 is, she had her metal carport right there in that space, backed side beside the house.
Okay, so it's 14
That's the
point there.
one the storm took away.
Okay,
And she's requesting that that one be put back, nothing to do with the back corner.
I understand. Thank you for clearing that up. It was getting
Thank
confusing.
you.
Okay. You
Sorry about
okay?
that.
Relax, we're doing well. The board, any questions for the applicant here then, after sorting that out?
Well,
Alderman Coates.
Yes, Ms. Logan.
I would just like to point out, so this was brought to me by the Codes Department, and the entire time that we have been speaking, the discussion has always revolved around one word, which is carport. So I guess I'm now confused by this diagram because this says house and porch. And so if we're not talking about the corner,
Thank you.
The carport that's attached to my house that you say has 3 sides,
yes.
okay, so they moved my house in the 80s from Bradley Parkway when they were putting in airports. They moved that house here to this piece of property, and they attached a laundry room, a den, and a carport. So when I bought the home in the late 80s,
Sorry.
that carport was, the carport that you're seeing here is already there. I parked my Jeep under it, and temporarily my camper and my truck in the front yard, in the front driveway.
May we come back to the picture to where, between the house that's showing the backside and that end of her house, right there? Where that pile of stuff is right there is where her carport was.
I see.
Thank you, sir. Sorry.
So,
So it's not drawn in on that piece of paper, but there was a carport between the fence where you see the stack of
Bricks.
pavers
Yeah.
and the side of the house. So that carport was right there. And they had taken it completely down to put the new one back, and when they were starting to put the new one back is when the stop order come in.
Mr.
So
Logan,
it actually sits right beside the end of the house.
Mr. Logan, would you like to input on that? Are we getting things correct here or with codes? I want to
Well,
make sure
I
we
mean,
do-
if it's the pile of material that's there,
Yes.
then that's
That
certainly-
is the carport material.
that's the carport material. So, I'm just trying to piece together, I wish Mr. Salyers was here. But
And won't that
again,
still-
these are brought to me by the codes people, so I don't, it's just confusing, I think, to everybody because of the diagram shows carport in the back, and so if it's violating the 10 feet, this one, that's the one that, from my understanding, everybody was talking about, including the codes officer. So I don't even know if they know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so
Just-
that's been there about 30 years.
Okay.
And it stores medical equipment and yard sale stuff.
I understand. I think we've got some confusion here, and I want to make sure that we're all clear. So, I mean, what I would, here's the codes then. This gentleman can answer your question.
Yes.
So, Bo, you want to move on with this?
Yes, sir. So the codes officers had brought this to the attention of planning and said that this applicant, Ms. Haynes, needed a variance. So we're trying to figure out which part of the yard.
It was, to my understanding, it was there where that pile of material is, that's where the tree fell. That took out the carport that was there. And in order to put one back, they would have to have some type of variance from, I know that the building had been there, but it was non-conforming, non-compliant to begin with, so couldn't quite issue a permit for them to put a carport back in the location where one once stood.
Okay. Thank you, Randolph. I think that answers the questions. So obviously, as you can see, the rest of the board here, obviously, we were initially looking at the top right corner there, which is obviously not. We're looking at beside the house where it says 14.6, obviously was there, and obviously it's now been knocked down and removed. However, we now moved into the 2021 ordinances and regulations, and the setback requirements obviously does not allow that to go in that location at the present time.
Has to be located in the rear portion of the yard, 10 feet from the property line.
Okay. Any further comments on this?
I have none.
So, Mr. Logan, would you say that the report as written, are we still adhering to that? Because obviously you made some comments here, 1 through
Yes.
3.
Regardless of where it is in the yard, the city instituted the 10-foot policy to keep orderly development in place. So it doesn't change anything. Whatever the applicant builds should still be 10 feet from any property line, whether it's in the north corner or the south corner or the east corner or the end of the house. So the report stays intact. It's still a 10-foot.
Setback.
Essentially, this is not any different than anybody coming and saying, hey, I want to violate the 10-foot ordinance, and so the city wouldn't allow it in any other instance. The only thing that people maybe aren't clear on, so on a structure that would have been, now I'm making some assumptions, I haven't been in Laverne that long, but I'm assuming what she had was grandfathered because, or at least a non-conforming structure for some amount of years. Well, if an act of God takes that out, you're not entitled to put it back illegally. You have to, and you just said it, Mr. Coates, you've got to go with the newest code, which means it's got to be 10 feet off the line. So that's the rule of thumb to follow. Thank you.
So I know it's time to move forward, and I understand what you're trying to do, but from looking at our regulations, and the staff's been very prominent here of what the issues are. What's the board's thoughts or comments on this? Because the moment, the way I'm reading it, that because of all the circumstances, the property to be man-made, the request is not justified because of the following conditions: the property is not exceptionally due to narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property. 2, property does not contain exceptional topographical conditions or other extraordinary or exceptional situational conditions. 2, the strict application of zoning ordinance would not result in the practical difficulties or undue hardship upon the owners of the property. And then 3, that the relief granted by this variance would cause substantial detriment to the public good by substantially impairing the intent of the purposes of the Laverne zoning ordinances. So that's what the staff's produced for us. So any comments on that from the board? I mean, it's a tough situation. It's one of those awkward ones.
I don't have any questions.
I have none at this time.
Okay, then we'll move on to with the donors. To make a motion to request or deny the request for side variance of side and rear setbacks properly located at 1704. I'll take a motion one way or the other.
I'll make a motion to deny the request as presented.
Make a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
With that, I just want to concur that we are referring to the denial for the reasons for as 1, 2, and 3 listed by the staff's reports. Is that
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. With that, I make those in vote for denial, if you would say aye.
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 Those opposed? Fortunately, the motion is denied. Okay, moving on. Item number 4, request for special exception to allow a church property located at 127 Suncrest Drive, tax map 14E, Group A, parcel 11, R1 low density residential zone district, property owned by Joseph M. Goff. Mr. Logan.
Thank you. This is a request to operate a church in an R1 district in the city of Laverne. The address is 127 Suncrest Drive. And you can see here in the imagery, I think the battery has died on this, so we're not going to use that one. So anyway, this is 127 Suncrest Drive, and this is located sort of in the north part of Laverne. And these are large lots. It's a single-family residential neighborhood. You can see there on the zoning map, this is a very, very large area of orange. So the orange means that it's R1 zoning. And the applicant has requested on their paperwork they would like to operate a church at this location. Here's some photos of the home. So this is taken from Suncrest Drive. And there's the BOSA sign that was placed on the property. There have really not been anything discussed about churches tend to grow in size. Some don't grow in size, but a lot do grow in size, and there's not been any information provided about the size of the church or what they intend to do in the future if they do grow. This is a picture of the driveway, and again, this is from the street in the front of the house. And then this photo you begin to see to the left, as you're facing the house to the left, is a privacy fence that's looks like a 6-foot privacy fence that's new, that's been installed. And then this shows you at least from the front view, shows a good idea of what's been fenced. And these plans were provided by the applicant. So this is a floor plan of the existing house. And then you can see that apparently they made some improvements sometime in the last, I guess, year. Made some kind of improvements and applied to the building department to do those improvements and get the correct building permits. And through that process, it was flagged. And so they provide, these are another plan that's provided. So this shows the actual lot from the subdivision plat several years ago when it was developed. that shows a lot that we're looking at. And this is calculated to be about 1.01 acres, give or take, for this address on Suncrest. And there has been a sign on the property about 3.5 weeks, and staff has received upwards of 25 phone calls on the property, and so lots of phone calls about this Boza sign, and a lot of activity and interest. There is, I believe, several of the neighbors have turned in this paperwork, and so I'll provide it to you all.
Is the applicant here this evening for this request, please? Please step forward, sir, if you would. I'd like to swear you in. Raise your right hand. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Nathan Awad, 127 Suncrest Drive, Vergne, Tennessee.
Okay, so you live at the home?
I am, yes.
Okay. Just a couple of questions for me. On your diagram, you're showing proposed building, but am I not seeing the building there already? I mean, in front of those two vehicles, is that not the proposed building, or?
The proposed building is the one on the left here. It says, it's highlighted, says proposed building.
I understand. Mr. Logan, would you go back to the picture of showing no, keep going back to the house. One more. That one there. So the proposed, meaning the building in front of those two vehicles, is that correct?
Right, yes.
Okay. Okay, and a couple of questions for me is parking. Obviously, you understand there's no parking on any city streets in Laverne. You're aware of that?
Yes.
How many cars can you get in your all-paved driveway? How many vehicles do you think you can get in there?
How many cars?
Yes.
About, I'd say 9.
9?
Yeah. On the old pavement?
Yeah, on the paved pavement.
Right, yes.
Okay, all right.
But recently, I don't like to park cars here on the front, since I already put gravel. If we have another, the other picture that I provided, I put gravel, and I put my cars in the back, and I close the gate.
Just historically,
Yes.
when people like yourself come in, we have been asking for a dustless surface, meaning, you know, a hard black top or a concrete top. So just be aware of that. Historically, that's what we've been requesting. So if you did your gravel, you've indicated gravel, and you did blacktop, that how many vehicles would you be able to park on that area? So you have 9 at the present time on the gravelled area. How many other vehicles would you be able to park there?
No, we don't park on both of them.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
We don't even, recently, I don't park on all the gravel in front of the house,
Okay.
behind the house, since I already put gravel behind the building.
I'm just trying to drive at and get to how many vehicles you can park on there safely. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh,
So at the moment you're telling me 9. Your planned congregation size, what size are you looking at as far as a congregation?
Are you saying congregation?
Let's say a gathering of
The
worship.
gathering of the, between 4 and 9 families. We're different. We are a friends group of people. We are Christian, Egyptian, Baptist, and we don't have Baptist Arabic speaking gathering here. So we gather on Sunday night. We'll read the Bible and study the Bible. That's all.
So your gatherings is going to be on Sundays?
Yes.
Any other days of the week?
It's only 1 hour on Sunday night.
1 hour Sunday.
And during the week, sometimes my kids, like other families' kids, they come and we read the Bible together, and they leave. So. And occasionally, like they have questions about the Bible, and I study the Bible for my own. I'm in the seminary, so people come to my house and ask me for things in the Bible, and I reply them.
Coach, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to weigh in on some of the thoughts that we're battling back and forth in my department and in the fire department as well. I don't know if Curtis is here tonight or not. In allowing a special exception for a church, we take on a little bit of responsibility in the building itself. Because the area of worship will be considered as an assembly. And in any assembly occupancy, there's going to be a lot of restrictions or a lot of hurdles to cross, I guess I should say, in life safety, fire safety. Your egress lighting, exit signage, how the seats are fixed, not fixed, if you've got stage, you know, how much of that area of the stage is occupying that room and how much actual occupant load is allowed. Restroom facilities, again, you know, are there enough women, men's, unisex restrooms in the building to accommodate an assembly occupancy? It's a single-family residence, that we know. But if we offer up a special exception, we need to, and Mr. Dodd may be able to weigh in some on this issue as well, but we do take on some of the liability in that we now will recognize that as an assembly occupancy, as it is a church, will become a church. So, you know, I've not been in there. I know that my inspectors have been out. We did give to them a permit back in the fall, I think it was November. And in the permit that was reviewed, they were asking for 16 linear feet of the front porch to be enclosed in the scope of work. I have shared that packet that was applied for back in November, and there was no mention. There were 2 garage doors on the front of this. There was no mention on the application that those doors were coming down or that room was going to be used in any way for an assembly occupancy. There was no mention of any kind. So basically, the permit that was applied for, they said, okay, we want to enclose, I think it was 16 linear feet of that front porch, which, you know, would be no reason for me to deny that permit. The red flags started flying up towards us, in that when the neighbors started complaining about parking all up and down, all around, and so we began to look at and investigate what's going on over there, and that's when we reached out to this gentleman here and discovered that they're using it as a place of worship. So I then explained that, you know, the special exception requirement need be addressed before that they could continue having that as a worship. And so here we are. And now, again, I don't know if my inspectors have been inside that room. I know that there was a green sticker on it the other day, so they have been approved in one shape, form, or fashion. But again, I need to emphasize the importance of having that room looked at inside as being capable of being declared an assembly occupancy. Because in the 2018 International Fire Code, you're going to start having some issues that this may or may not have. And again, Mr. Dodd can chime in on this a little bit, but I don't want to see us put in a position where we say, okay, it's an assembly occupancy now, or it's a church, and then there become an issue with you know, them not having proper fire protection, fire-related issues in the 2018 International Fire Code as far as egress, lighting, and exit signage, and so forth.
Go ahead.
And again, there was no mention on that application back in November that this was going to be used in any way as a church, or that those 2 garage doors were coming down. Had I known that there was going to be a little bit more work that was involved rather than what the scope of work that was given to me, we would have addressed this back last November.
My question is for the city attorney.
Go ahead.
What would prevent the board from approving? Is it conditional upon an inspection, or would that prevent the board from approving it? Does one or the other need to take place first?
So my understanding is the question before the board right now is, can we allow or disallow a church in an R1 residential district? And so the applicant would still have to comply with all building permits and the like.
Okay.
And so I think before us currently, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, Chairman, it's a narrow question, can we allow or disallow a church in R1 residential district?
I agree, but also I think there needs to be some homework done here. I think without the fire marshal's input as well as the code's input,
Sure.
you agree with me. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I would like to see you do some more homework with the city codes and fire marshal before I think we can proceed. I don't want to be fortuitous and go one way, yes or no.
Okay.
I think it's better on your behalf, the applicant, to
Right.
work with the city
Okay.
to get these items resolved. So when it does come back towards us, there is no major issue. And if you're okay with that,
Sure.
and you're willing to do that,
The point is, can I cut you?
go ahead, sir.
The point is, I don't have so much information about the city and codes and things like that. I'm getting educated in things like
Sure,
that. So,
sure. Well, number one is all the codes and zoning ordinances are on the website, city website. They're on there if you want to read them. We have copies here, and the staff can guide you. I just think it's best for both the city as well as yourselves. Let's get this homework done so you're satisfying what you need for your requirements, as well as the city does their homework for their requirements.
yes,
And then come back to this board with everything checked off or marked off.
Sure.
Then it'd be better to pursue. And so
okay,
with that, if you're okay with that, if you would like to defer and just, go and work with the city, and then when that gets resolved, you can come back to this board and we can make a move forward from there, if that's acceptable to you.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Who do I contact with in the city?
Okay, so you can contact Mr. Bo Logan down there, the city
Okay,
planner. Start
yeah.
with him. You
Yeah,
work
we
with
had a
several times.
conversation
Okay,
before.
start with him, and then he will put you in the contact with the correct people that need to visit the facility, look at the facility, and work with you to get you where you need to be.
Sure, yes, that's
Okay.
great.
I
Yes.
think, like the chairman, it's kind of giving you, like parking and, like you said, some of those things, just, that, just want to be safe and all of that for
Yes.
everyone.
That's right, yes. Thank you.
So with that, we'll take that, you're going to defer and then work with the city, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. Thank you very much. We'll look forward back to hear from you after you get things resolved.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, it is open, so anyone wants to speak for or against, please step to the podium one at a time. You'll be sworn in and state your name and address for the record, if you would, please. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, none but the truth, to help you God. Say your name and record, please.
Leo Blom, 110 Sweet Gum in Laverne, Tennessee.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
As you can see, I'd put in the people who have concerns, but more of what I'd like to say is more to this gentleman, which is that this is a residential area. I love this area. And what he's done already, and what I'm really trying to do is keep you from wasting more money, because that was a beautiful home at one time, and he's come in and enclosed that whole place in and put a couple of doors in. He's also put an entire parking lot in the back of his house, all gravelled in already. He's putting a lot of money into an area that we don't want all that traffic. He's pushed the very limits of it being a residential neighborhood already. I'm trying to help him as well as our community, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. People are really upset because of the traffic that had come in there. He may be a very good gentleman. I far be it from me to say that somebody shouldn't come in, but if they want a business, it shouldn't be in a residential neighborhood, whether it be a church or whether it be a Walmart or whatever. You shouldn't put that kind of traffic through there. The only egress, as far as traffic even is concerned, is going to be an issue if he continues to build like he is. So, and I just hate him to waste all that money to start with, because this is a nice little neighborhood, and that's all it should be.
That's it. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak? Please stand up. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Marcia Dickerson, 163 Morningside Drive. My parents bought the land that we live on now. They were one of the first people to buy and build a house out there from Mr. Hall, who owned that farm. My husband and I retired from the military. My husband and I moved there in 2010 after my father died. This has been a residential neighborhood. It was a farm before it became a residential neighborhood. You can walk on the roads. You can walk your dogs. Neighbors know each other. have known each other for years. The idea that it doesn't have anything to do with it being a church, because as a veteran, I fought for you to have the right to worship as you want. I fought for the right for us all to do and be who we want to be, but putting something like this in a residential neighborhood would be a mistake. First and foremost, you can already see the difference that it is to the neighborhood. It is already looking commercial. What's to stop, after this, what's to stop a daycare from coming in? What's to stop somebody having a store out of their house front, their garage? Ask you, if you lived in this neighborhood, would you want this in your neighborhood? So I don't know if I'm you and I are the only two people here, we might be. Okay, so as you can see, we're very, there's a lot of us here. And again, sir, I'd like to address you. It's not you, it's not the fact that you want to worship as you want to worship, it's the location. And we would ask that you, if you could, to please maybe search for another location. Live there, please be a part of our neighborhood and be our neighbor, but please look for another location for your church, please. Thank you.
You want to step up? Let me just finish off the rest of it. Anyone else want to speak for or against? Please step up to the podium one at a time, please. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
What's your name and address, please?
My name is Melissa Wilson. I live at 121 Sweet Gum Drive, and I've lived there 30 years. And I love where we live. And I noticed when he came in there, and they started making renovations, I thought, oh, they're going to come in and they're going to show the house some love, because it's an older home. And then more things kept happening, Cars were there, and then the fence, and then the gravel, and I'm like, okay. Then I saw the sign, and I called immediately. And I left a message, and I don't know who called me back, but I appreciate it, and found out about the meeting. And I'm not opposed to a church at all, but I am opposed to what this opens the door to. If we're going to let a church come in, what else are we going to be able to, once you get this done, what else does that allow to come into the neighborhood? Does it allow, like she said, does it allow daycare? Does it allow some other business? What does it allow? That's my concern. And the traffic, and we walk, that's our walking path. You know, that's where we walk on that road. And it has been busier. And again, I love the church, you know. I wish he would just find somewhere else to assemble and leave our neighborhood alone.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Raise your right hand, sir, if you would. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address
My
for the
name
record.
is Tony Hiles. I live 211 Morningside Drive. I live around the corner from where the church is going to be. I've lived there for over 30 years. This is just not the place for a church. The house that he's in now has been there for many years. It's a well-kept house, always very nice looking from the road. And since they've been there, it's gone down. It's become an eyesore. And we've got enough of that in the neighborhood. I had a whole pad of questions I wanted to ask as far as what kind of door do we open when a church is approved? Is that considered commercial, like a store, or like they said, a daycare, or is it a completely different zoning?
Well, one of the concepts of the BOSA is to bring each individual piece forward. So this is only, application is only for a church, and anything else that does change in R1 will have to come in front of this board, and that's why we're asking the questions this evening, and that's why we're working with the applicant to work with the city staff to see if they can fit the requirement.
Okay. Well, I just don't think it's the right place for a church.
Understand, sir?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir. Raise your right hand if you would. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Richard Harris. I live at 131 Suncrest Drive, the house next door to the church. It is a great neighborhood. You've heard everyone mention of it, how they love the acreage, all the property we have. My concern is the parking, because the back of that property floods. It has seasonal flooding, and if they do anything with hardscapes back there, then that water has nowhere to drain to. So my yard becomes more of a pond in the back, and I'm concerned about my property value. I have spoken to a realtor, and he said a church will not help the value of my home. He said it didn't hurt, but he said it will not help. So that means it's going to hurt. I think they're wonderful people. I have met them. We've had numerous conversations, and I would love to have them as neighbors, but not in an aspect of where we have a business next door to my home.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else speak for this? Yes, sir. Please stand at the podium if you would. Raise your right hand. We'll swear you in. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Mike Wall, 157 Rainbow Place in Laverne. I live right across the street from Nathan and Sarah. When they moved in, had an opportunity to get to know them a little bit, and found that they are as fine a people as you would ever want to have as neighbors. I probably have no less than 20 or 25 messages where we've interacted. And the term that he uses when he talks and sends message is brother. And I guess the thing that I want to say is I'm 72. I've lived in Laverne for 40 years and am very much invested. My kids went to school here. I coach baseball, pee-wee, all the way up to a 13-year-old for years and years. I am very much vested in this community. The next thing I guess I want to say is that we're in the process of celebrating what's called Holy Week. For Christians, for believers, for people of faith, that means that we celebrate what God did through Christ in an atonement. Now that's a baseline, that's where we start. But in celebration of that, that informs all of our other decisions. Don't know if y'all knew Carl Scarlett or not. I lived across from him when I lived on Taylor Drive before I moved where I am now over 30 years ago. Had a neighbor, this Baptist preacher, Miracle Baptist Church, great guy, wonderful friend. If Franklin Graham moved in, Billy Graham's son, those who may not know, moved into our community, I would not expect anything less than Franklin Graham opening up his home to people that would study the Bible and pray. And if people of faith, which are the church, congregating to study and grow, and all of that informs our decisions on how we live. And I understand there's a codes issue that may be addressed, but I hope this is the worst thing that would ever come to my neighborhood, that people would want to gather together. I live right across the street. Parking is not a problem. I have never seen anybody have to stop to get in or out. I'm delighted to have Nathan and Sarah, who is a wonderful cook, brought food to my door, checked on me when it was cold. This is the church. It's not about building a church there. It's about being the church. So apart from codes issues, I would beg you to hold that in mind, that we have a lot of churches in this town that were started in basements and living rooms when people gradually grew to a point, and then they were able to move out and find a plant somewhere.
Somewhere out of their neighborhood, not in their neighborhood.
I'm talking about the church begins, it's born in homes and living rooms. Yeah. Pardon?
That's not gradual. Sure it is. That's not gradual.
Continue on, sir. We're moving on. Okay. The applicant would like to just come up and just speak, just so we can answer the questions that have been put out to him. Please, sir.
At the beginning, we started like people coming to my house. Then it was like I didn't have a good size of room, so I had to enclose the garage. So we said this is a good area, and everything I did through permissions from the city. And because the people that started, my people that started parking their cars in front of the house, people started complaining. I got people from the city, they came and they said, "Are you operating a church here?" I said, "We study the Bible and we read the Bible." Me and my friend, they come to my house, and he said, "If you want to do this, you can apply and do an application in the city and do all this process." That's how how we started. But the point is, all my hope is freely meet with my friends and read the Bible, no matter if it's called a church or just a gathering of believers. And I believe that I have a role I've been doing in the society. During the COVID, me and the families I know, Egyptians, we started to have banners and signs, and we went to the street on Murfreesboro Road. The signs says, "Seek peace for the city." That's from the book of Jeremiah and all the Bible verses. So we don't want to be like church with the steeple or all the formal things, but we just want to have you to allow us to meet in my house, and I promise I can keep all the cars. We only meet 1 day a week, and I visit my families during the week in their houses. I play music, we sing to the Lord, and we read the Bible in their houses. I visit them on a regular basis during the week. On Sunday night we meet, and I promise that we can keep all the cars in the back to not hurt the face or the facade of the area of the house. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, sir, appreciate it. Thank you very much. And to the citizens that come and spoke this evening, we're going to defer this evening and work with Mr. Logan and the rest of the staff, and we'll see you back when you come back in.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. With nothing else coming in front of the board, I'll call this meeting adjourned.